and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now moving to the announcements section of our agenda. We're delighted and honored to have such a great crowd from our Hoover Area Chamber of Commerce tonight. I'd like to recognize Mr. Paul Dangle, who I believe will come up and introduce us to a new member of their staff.
Thank you, President Lida. I'm very honored to be here. My name is Paul Dangle. I'm the president, board chair for 2020 and 2021 of the Hoover Area Chamber of Commerce. And we're delighted tonight to introduce our new president and CEO, Tony Bast, who, after an extensive search that took about 4 months, and we explored every option, we really feel like we found the absolute best person to lead our chamber and your chamber, for that matter, into the future. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Tony Bast. Tony joins us. You may know her from the Birmingham Airport Authority, but most recently from the YWCA, and today was actually her very first day with the Hoover Chambers.
Well, thank you very much. It's my honor and privilege to be able to serve in this leadership capacity for an incredible city and a very important organization. And I am really excited to work with our board of directors, city council, and mayor. And I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you all.
Councilman Murphy.
President Lida, thank you so much. It's a pleasure for me as a council member, and I'm sure my other colleagues will say the same, for you to be in this position. You know, one thing to hire an individual that has tons of credentials, but you may not know. Ms. Bass has been around quite some time in this community. She loves the community. Our kids attend the school here. And just talking to you about what motivates you, and knowing that your mom played a key role in that. She was a part of the Chambers, El Paso, won award in women's leadership and entrepreneurship, and also taught you a lot about business and also being strong and the things you have to do. So I'm just so proud to have you here. You bring a lot of energy. Myself and you served on the first Leadership Hoover class. So it was great to meet you at that point. So y'all did a fantastic job in searching for this person right here, homegrown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. We'll now move to the proclamations. Mayor, I believe you have a couple of proclamations to deliver.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it. I would ask for Ms. Vernetta Woodbury and Andrea Hale if they would come up. And they are representing the Women in Construction. And we have each year we have an opportunity to honor this group, and we would like to continue that tradition by reading this proclamation. I'd ask our city attorney if he would to proceed with reading that.
Whereas the Greater Birmingham Chapter number 53 has distinguished itself for 54 years as the voice of women in construction in the metropolitan Birmingham area, and whereas the work done by the Greater Birmingham Chapter 53 has benefited the metropolitan Birmingham area through community development and educational programs, and whereas the Greater Birmingham Chapter number 53 has unceasingly promoted the employment and advancement of women in the construction industry, and whereas the construction community represented by Greater Birmingham Chapter number 53 has been a driving force in fostering community development through renovation and beautification projects, promotion of skilled trades careers, and a positive vision of the future. And whereas the Greater Birmingham Chapter number 53 has sought to achieve successful results for the Birmingham metropolitan and surrounding areas in a cooperative spirit with other organizations, now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Hoover Mayor Frank V. Mercado, do hereby recognize the Greater Birmingham Chapter number 53 and its many dedicated volunteers for its steadfast work on behalf and support of women in construction, and do proudly proclaim the week of March 7th through 13th, 2021 as Women in Construction Week, and encourage our citizens to congratulate the organization on its many accomplishments.
My name is Bernetta Woodbury, and I just want to say I am so honored to have the opportunity to receive this proclamation from Hoover. We have a lot of members that's from the Hoover area, and we appreciate all that you guys do to support us for, I know, at least 5 or 6 years, and every year we're able to come here and you guys support us. So thank you so much for all you guys do.
And probably one of the most fun months that I get to have is during when we are dealing with Arbor Day, and we're going around we get a chance to go to every school and plant a tree, and Colin Connor is just phenomenal, as each of these members here of our beautification board will attest to. So at this time, we've got the Arbor Day proclamation that we'd ask our members of the beautification board if they would come up and give us an opportunity to recognize them and what they do as well. And Miss Mary Ross Searcy is the president. We have Christine Hoffman, Patricia Narrow, Diane Ray, Ann McAdams, Amy George, Liz Elliott, Meredith Carpenter, Betty Daigle, Holly Fondance, and Louise Billingsley. So I'm going to step over with Mary.
Whereas in 1872, Mr. J. Sterling Morton championed America's first Arbor Day celebration in Nebraska City, Nebraska, where more than 1 million trees were planted. And whereas in 1887, Alabama Governor Thomas Say signed the state's first Arbor Day proclamation. Whereas in 1975, the Alabama State Legislature adopted an act designating the last full week in February as Arbor Week in Alabama. And whereas it was the purpose of that designation, as well as the designation of Arbor Day throughout the nation, to encourage the planting of trees, encourage sound tree conservation, and encourage the protection of trees and forests from destructive pests, wildfire, vandalism, and practices that degrade forest health, beauty, and sustainability. And whereas through the cooperation of all Hoover residents, businesses, and governance in recognizing the beneficial effects of healthy trees and forests, practicing sound tree conservation, and protecting trees from their natural and unnatural enemies, Hoover can pass on the enduring and vital heritage of its urban forest resource to succeeding generations. And whereas in appreciation for the exemplary leadership and dedication displayed by Hoover Beautification Board member Michael Zarishnak in organizing Hoover's Arbor Day celebration from 1999 to 2013, all future Hoover Arbor Day celebrations shall be conducted in a manner that will honor Mike's memory and his undeniable passion for trees. Now, therefore, I, Frank V. Mercado, Mayor of the City of Hoover, do hereby proclaim Saturday, March 6th as Arbor Day in Hoover, Alabama. I urge everyone able to do so to observe this day through the planting of one or more trees and through participation in one or more programs that the sponsors of Arbor Day may provide.
Thank you very much. We want to thank the mayor and city council for this proclamation, and we'd like to invite each and every one of you this coming Saturday on March the 6th to come to our Arbor Day celebration at Aldrich Gardens. We always have a great time, and I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you.
Tree man.
You can frown if you want.
I believe we have some employee recognitions for the mayor.
Yes, COVID kind of shut this down for us, but we are bringing it back, resurrecting it, and I'm excited to recognize tonight Miss Amanda Borden. Amanda, come up, and if you don't mind, just let me say a few things about Amanda. She has been with us now for 20 years. Amanda is married to Dr. Alan Borden, who's a vet down on Highway 150, has been for a long time, but Amanda hired here in 2001 as a library coordinator, and in 2006 she was promoted to the director, assistant library director, and then she had to fill the Bear Bryant of librarians back in 2017 when Linda Andrews retired. What a great lady she is, and did a wonderful job starting our library. She's so much, she's done so much with Southern Voice, which is an incredible program that goes on at our library, and she's been involved with that for 10 years. Of course, she's involved in the Jefferson County Cooperative on the Executive Council. She's actually the president for the past 2 years. And I'd like to I think the library is probably the most recognized and most loved institution in our city by a long shot, and it's used by people not just in Hoover, but all over the metropolitan area as well. Just a fantastic reputation, has, the largest circulation maybe in the state of Alabama, if I'm not mistaken, and number one, hard to. Yeah, okay, so for one facility, so they do a great job. And let me just say, last year was very challenging for libraries and for cities and for just all parts of government and business in general. But we called on Amanda to ask her to set up a helpline where our citizens could call in during these really a difficult time. You know what I'm talking about, but so many people on Friday, March the 13th were just thrown into this unbelievable nightmare of COVID. And so we needed some group to take on this responsibility of answering a phone from desperate individuals on what to do. And there were desperate calls. Everything from I can't pay my rent to I need food to where do I go for job help, just an assortment. And her group, the librarians, stepped up. And, I was over there today and they tell me they are still getting calls after 1 year. So we're so proud to have individuals like this that lead our city and can put something like that together literally in about 48 hours. And it was quite a success, as I think you can attest to by the fact that people are still using it. So congratulations for your 20 years. And our next 20-year employee is Lieutenant Chris Fulmer. Chris, I think, come on up, Chris. Your wife is certainly welcome to come if she wants, but it's entirely up to her. And your parents, Jerry and Susan Fulmer, are they here as well? Are your parents here? Certainly, y'all feel free to come up. Chris hired on the Hoover Fire Department February the 14th, 2001. And he was promoted to lieutenant in April of 2015. He works at Station 3, and this is a rarity. He has really been there for almost his entire career, short maybe 1.5 years. I think you were at Fire Station 2, if I'm not mistaken. So he does a great job down there, and something he's attained that not many get to attain, and that he was the firefighter of the year in 2016, and that's quite an honor. We've got about 180 folks that would love to be able to hang that plaque on their wall, and he's been able to do it. But not only is he a great firefighter and a paramedic and just a contributor to our department, he has really taken the technology part of Hoover Fire Department to leaps and bounds. We fight fire still with water, but every fire engine has a computer. Of course, every fire station has a computer. But so when our firefighters or our paramedics get on the scene, they pull a tablet out, much like your doctors do. I think if any of you have been to the doctor lately, the doc pulls out the tablet and does the patient care report on it. Well, we do that as well in the fire department. And he, along with other technology issues that he addresses in the city, is instrumental in making those types of things work. It's so very important. We're grateful for your 20 years of service, and we appreciate that you chose the city of Hoover. Thank you so much.
I believe we'll now hear a report from Ms. Tina Bolt on some January financials. Ms. Bolt.
Thank you, Mr. President. So before you, you have the January preliminary financials. As I have said to you in the past, we are still working on our audit, so we're trying to close out the year, and we're getting very close and should have those annual financial statements to you by the end of the month. So working on that. But looking at what we have for January, as you can see, our columns are annual budget, what we budgeted, what our guesstimate was. And then our year-to-date projected, when we took that annual budget and we divided it out by 12 months, what do we project for January? And then what we actually did, year-to-date actual, and then whether that's favorable or unfavorable. So looking at revenues, you can see that we have a favorable difference of $4.4 million. Again, that also includes, that actual includes those revenues that we received from the CARES Act, which we will correct and actually change the budget and update that this month, and you will see something a little bit different come next month. Looking at our total expenditures, we have a favorable difference of $7.1 million. That means that we are not spending as we projected we were at this point in time. So we're basically for, the January, we're at 33% of our budget, but our spending shows that we are 24%. So we're a good bit under, almost 10% under, so that's encouraging. One thing that was on this budget for January was a budget for debt that since we refunded those bonds recently, that payment was not made. So it'll be paid another time, in another month. So I think that was a little over $1 million, so $1 million and some change. So other sources or uses are favorable of 2.1. That gives us a net change in fund balance, favorable of 13.6. So what our year-to-date actual net change in fund balance is $28.1 million. So we are adding, at this point, if we close the books today, we are adding $28 million to our fund balance, giving us a fund balance of $72.3 million. Now, again, we're not closing the books today, and even though this looks great, I still love to caution y'all, let's not get all excited because we've still got, a long way to go before we get to the end of the year. So looking at our revenues breakdown, so our total sales and use tax, which we'll break down again in a little minute and let you look at some of those sales taxes, we have a favorable difference of 6.2. Other taxes show an unfavorable difference of 2.8. And basically what that comprises of property tax, gross tax receipts, and franchise tax receipts are slightly below what we projected to have for January. So we're hoping that's going to increase a little bit in the next month. Total licenses and permits are also down 1.7. Again, business licenses are down from where we had anticipated for the month of January. Intergovernmental is a favorable difference of $3 million, and again, that includes that I think it was around a little less than 3.5 million that we received from the CARES Act. Total fines and forfeitures are also down 18,000. Total interest, again, as we say, when you mark to market and the market's not doing well, and we do that each month, even though we're getting some interest, but when we book that, what the market value is of those investments, it's not very favorable at this point, as we know. But as we have talked about, we are looking at some investment plans, and I think we're going to go to bid to try to change some of those investments in the next week or so. So trying to get an update from Raymond James, our financial advisor, about some things that we can do. So that total interest is definitely down 43,000, and then other revenues are down 81,000. But even with all those unfavorable differences, we still have a total of favorable difference of 4.4. And again, as you can see, a lot of that is attributed to our total sales and use tax, which makes up 2/3 of our revenues. So looking at our breakdown of our general sales tax, and again, we're not comparing budget to actual because that's just our guesstimate. We're actually comparing what we did last January 2020, to what we did this January. So as you can see, sales tax was up a little bit, 693,000. Casual sales tax up by 35,000. Seller's use tax is our biggest, basically carrying us at this point as far as what we did from last year to this year of 1.8 million. Consumer use tax difference, an increase of 638,000, and SSUT, an increase of 482,000. Last year, we saw such a big difference with SSUT because we had not seen it. And then when COVID hit and everybody's ordering online, we saw a much bigger jump in January than we are now, because that's it's not necessarily leveled out, but I think we're used to those higher numbers with SSUT. But total for just sales tax, we see a favorable difference of 3.7 of these sales tax. Any questions?
Councilman Shaw.
Mr. President, thank you, Ms. Bolt. The seller's use tax, that includes like auto sales and new home construction, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if they buy a bunch of wood or bricks or whatever, that they pay use tax on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And we know building is definitely happening.
Any other questions for Ms. Bolt? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Clinton, I believe you have an announcement regarding the Board of Education.
Yes, I do. As chair of the Education Committee, want to announce that the Board of Education will have an upcoming vacancy in June. The applications are available in the office of the city clerk and on the website beginning tomorrow morning. Applications will be accepted until March 29th, 2021 at 5 p.m. Then the Education Committee will meet at Hoover City Hall on April 19th at 4 p.m., and that will be open to the public, where we'll make a recommendation to the council. The dates and times of the Education Committee to hold applicant interviews will be determined and announced at a later date based on the applications we get. And the interviews will be held in early April. And I'd like to thank Councilman Murphy. He kind of changed the new standard, the way we do these things now. And I look forward to carrying that torch and looking forward to getting some quality applicants.
Very good. Thank you, sir. We'll now move to our consent agenda, and I'd begin by asking Mr. Corley if you would please to read the items on our consent agenda.
Item 6 is the approval of the minutes from the February 11th work session and February 15th meeting. Item number 7, Resolution 641321 approves a 140 special events retail license for Gemco LLC, doing business as Beef O'Brady's, located at 5519 Grove Boulevard, Suite 109, parking lot, requested by George McClooney III, Executive. Resolution 641421 approves a 050 retail beer off premises only and 070 restaurant table wine off premises only for Mapco Express, number 7549, located at 200 Inverness Drive. Resolution 64-1521 approves a 040 retail beer license for Chipotle Mexican Grill of Colorado, doing business as Chipotle Mexican Grill, located at 1051 Amber Lane, Suite 100, requested by Helen Kaminsky, Executive. Resolution number 64-1721 concurs with the mayor on the reappointment of Roger Varner to the Personnel Review Board.
Thank you, Mr. Corley. For those in attendance, the consent agenda are items that the council deems as rather routine, and while we don't anticipate there being any discussion from the council or audience, I would ask if there's anyone here that would like to speak on behalf of one of these items, we would be happy to remove it from the consent and move it to the regular agenda. Anyone here to speak on any of the items we just heard? Having seen none, the council did come together Thursday night and talk about each of these items in detail, and we had members of the mayor's staff speak to us on those. So having said that, open for a motion.
Mr. President, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and second for approval of all items on the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. All resolutions are passed. We'll now move down to the regular agenda and begin with item number 9, Mr. Corley.
Resolution number 64-1621 authorizes Birmingham Water Works Board to install fire hydrants at the locations listed in the resolution.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 6416-21.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from members of the body?
President Light, I'll be abstaining from this vote.
Yes, please note that Councilman Murphy, Madam Clerk, will be abstaining. Any other questions or comments from the council? Any questions or comments from those in attendance? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Ayes have it, and the resolution carries. Item number 10, ordinance number 21-2506, Mr. Corley.
I've got this as item number 12, by the way. Ordinance number 21-2506 is a second reading, annexing the property located at 3734 Spearman Drive, owned by Courtney and Justin Carter, to the city of Hoover.
Mr. President, if I may, on this, I'll go ahead and make a move that we adopt ordinance number 21-2506.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you mind pulling this map up if you can? All right. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the one where, okay, we've already seen this one, correct? Okay, I was one ahead of us, so never mind. I think we're good on this one.
This one and the next one, and then
Okay, I was looking ahead, I'm sorry. Sorry, Mr. President. No problem. I was actually just buffering a little bit until we figured out that number.
Gave me time to renumber all my agenda items. Thank you for that very timely pause there. We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from members of the body? I know we've had a first and a second reading of this item. Any questions or comments from members of the audience? Hearing and seeing none, if you'll please call the roll, Madam Clerk, and allow the members to vote.
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Sweeney,
Aye.
Mr. Shaw,
Aye.
Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Dr. Middlebrooks,
Aye.
Mr. McClinton,
Aye.
Mr. Lyda.
Aye. With a vote of 7 ayes, 0 nays, the ordinance is adopted. We'll now move to item number 13, ordinance number 21-2507, Mr. Corley.
This ordinance annexes the property located at 2316 Teton Road, owned by Matt and Amy Williams, to the city of Hoover.
Mr. President, I move for adoption of ordinance number 21-2507.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Likewise, we saw this item Thursday night and have had an opportunity to ask questions of the owners, and I believe they're here should there be any questions tonight.
And Mr. President, I would ask if Ms. Handley could put the, I'm not Ms. Handley, Madam Clerk, if you could put the map up there on the screen, because Mr. Murphy, I think, wanted to see it real quick, just to make sure we were on the same page.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, I went the wrong way. There we go.
Yeah, it's right there. See it?
Everyone can see on their screens the subject property there highlighted. Any questions from the body on this item? Any questions from the audience? Hearing and seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll and allow the members to vote.
Mr. Posey? Aye. Mr. Sweeney?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw? Aye. Murphy?
Aye.
Dr. Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Mr. McClinton?
Aye.
Mr. Lyda?
Aye, 7 ayes, 0 nays. Ordinance is adopted. Items 12 and 13 will be a first reading tonight. No action will be taken by the council. However, we will take these items up on March 15th for a vote. The first is item number 14, ordinance 21-2510. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance annexes the property located at 1868 Westerwood Drive owned by Robert Matthews. And then ordinance number 21-2511 annexes the property located at 1873 Mayflower Drive owned by Robert Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Corley. These items are owned by the same person, and I believe he is here in the audience to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Mr. Matthews? I just had one for the applicant, Mr. President, if that's all right.
Sure, of course.
And Ms. Dickerson, if we could put this up on the screen. Just to confirm, Mr. Matthews, this is, your intent is to take both of these lots and merge them into one for new construction, correct?
Yes, actually, the two that are highlighted that are annexed in are owned by me. My son owns the two, I call them half lots behind them. So our intent is to take those 4 half lots and make 2 of them.
Okay.
Out of them.
And it's intended to be zoned R1 residential when this is complete?
Hopefully, that's the next step,
Right.
because they're gonna be a little shy, I think, as far as the square footage.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But I believe I've got a nice plan to put on them.
Okay, great. All right, that was it, Mr. President.
Any other questions for Mr. Matthews? Very good. Mr. Matthews, we'll see you on March 15th. Next 2 items will be first readings tonight, and we'll have a presentation on these items. First reading will be tonight, and then we'll have a public hearing and a possible vote on March 15th. Item 16 is ordinance number 21-2508. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance rezones property located off of I-459 and Peridot Place from A1 to C2 and is represented by Hoover Senior Living Partners, LLC.
Thank you, sir. If you'd go ahead and handle number 17, resolution 6412-21.
This resolution approves a conditional use for the site plan and for an independent living facility as requested by Hoover Senior Partners, LLC on Peridot Place.
Very good. Mr. Martin, if you would come, and I know you introduced the items Thursday night, but we're privileged to have Mr. Mark Gonzalez as Mr. Armand Vari with us tonight as well, the developer and project designer. So, Mr. Martin, if you would just introduce our guests in the presentation, please.
All right, sure thing. Good evening. You're correct. Tonight we have representatives from the developer as well as the engineering and landscape architect team that will be producing the plans for this proposed development, which is an assisted and independent living community that would locate on the newly rezoned C2 property adjacent to I-459 and south of the Stadium Trace Village development. At this time, I'll introduce Armand Vari and let him take it from there.
Thank you. Council President Lyda, fellow councilmen, Mayor Brocato, and staff, my name is Armand Vari. The name of our company is Jacoby Acquisitions. We're located at 8200 Roberts Drive in Atlanta. As you know, we're here requesting the approval of our 6th celebration village, the first one outside of Metro Atlanta. We're anxious to come to Hoover. I mentioned to someone earlier, this is my 11th trip here, so I kind of know your city, and we're excited to be able to appear in front of you. I'll be joined tonight by our civil engineer, Mr. Mark Gonzalez. I'll also be joined by Robin Gregory, who is our landscape architect, and also by Aubrey Long, who is our traffic engineer. As Mac had mentioned, we have 60 acres located at the bottom of the Stadium Trace complex, fronting on 459 with access points on 150 as well as Stadium Trace Parkway. Celebration Village is an age-in-place, 55 and over, deed-restricted senior resort. It has 7 distinct neighborhoods, and I'll go through them now for you, and I've been taught how to do this a little bit since the last time. You see here are our bungalows. That is our only for sale product. We figure they'll be in the 2,400 to 2,800 square foot range, in the $400,000 to $475,000 range, depending on the market. The second portion of the development are the cottages. They are 1,800 square feet, 1.5 car garage. They are for lease. It is for that person that doesn't want to live in the big house. Maybe it is a widow or a widower that is not ready to go into a villa, that doesn't want the big house but has the cottages and wants all the amenities that come with it. The next step is B, which are the villas. And the villas are a little smaller than the cottages, nice, plush, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, you have your choice, and they are located, as you see, connected to the club, and I'll get to that in a second. The next portion is concierge, and we have 102 concierge apartments, and the question is, what is concierge? It's something that we came up with. It's a mixture between independent and assisted. Sometimes you need help, come see me on Monday, make sure my prescriptions are all squared away. Come see me on Friday, make sure I don't need anything. Other than that, I'm fine. We have found that as long as you treat people independently, they seem to live like that. If in fact you start to assist them when they don't need it, they start to get a little older right in front of your eyes. So we learned a little bit there. The next one we have are the assisted living, of which, just like it sounds, they need our help. It's not 24-hour the way that the memory care people are, but the assisted living, they have their own restaurant to eat in. They have round the clock, but not the attention where somebody is sitting in the room, most hours of the day with the memory care. And then the last portion are the memory care. And as you see, all of these developments that I'm addressing are around what we call the club. And the club is a 30,000 square foot facility that includes our restaurants, our bistro, our tavern, our health club, our card room, our craft and hobby room, a nail and hair salon, and a couple other things that we've come up with that we haven't gone public with, and we will. But that is 24 hours. We are manned in there. Obviously, you don't eat for the 24 hours, but we have around-the-clock opportunity to take care of our friends and our people that are with us. Very early in the process, we were made aware that there was a major concern of stormwater wash-off in this area to the neighborhood that was below us. I was urged to look into Dr. DeFranco's house and the lake behind him. Of whatever we did, we better make sure that he is appeased. I have made a visit to Dr. Franco's house. I have gone to Dr. Franco's office and had the privilege of sitting with he and Mr. Greg Williams. They have come to Mr. Gonzalez's office. Mr. Gonzalez has come up with a plan that I think is brilliant, and it has appeased and made sure that it works for us, and it certainly will work for Dr. DeFranco and Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams is the head of the HOA, and he also sits on the council of about 1,300 homes. So if I got it wrong, I'm in a lot of trouble with him. They are both here tonight. They have offered to speak for us. Dr. DeFranco, if you'll raise your hand, and Mr. Greg Williams, if you'll raise your hand. You're welcome to come up here, please. I need all the help I can get.
Can you hear me? It sounds like it. Good evening. I want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to come here and speak about this project. Like Mr. Berry said, the developer and Mr. Gonzalez have spent a lot of time going over this project with us. I've got to tell you, we're excited about it. I think it's a good project for Hoover. I'm glad it's in my backyard. I'm glad it's going to help solve a lot of the watershed problems that we've been having for the last decade. And I think this is not just good for our community, but it's good for the city of Hoover. It's not going to produce a lot of traffic over there. You're dealing with, you know, people that are not driving a whole lot. So I think I know that's a congested part of the city. I don't think it's going to make it worse. I believe aesthetically, it's going to be a beautiful development, a development that the city's going to be proud of. We are really, really happy about the architect that's involved with this, the engineer. Mr. Gonzalez, I think this is probably your third project over here. All of his projects have not hurt us. The projects that hurt us the most were the Shops of Hoover and the development at Target. That really put a high demand on our lakes over there and really critically hurt them. He knows what he's doing. I highly recommend that the city consider using him for all future projects because he really goes out of his way to meet with the local residents in these sensitive areas. He answers the questions. He knows what he's doing. I'm not worried about this project. And I think it'd be a mistake for us to pass on this in any way. We got a first-class developer with a first-class engineer, and I just don't perceive any problems. Now, I've lived in Hoover since 1976. And I've been to a bunch of meetings here over the years, particularly the last 7. And I got to tell you guys something, I have never been happier to be a resident of Hoover as I am now. This council, with this mayor, in my opinion, has been the best group of people I've ever known serve in those positions. And I just want you to know I appreciate it. I follow a lot of you guys on the internet and social media. You guys are busier than I am and still have time to do this, and I want you to know I admire each one of you. Thank you.
I don't know if I can follow that, but Alan Rice, and you all recognize me. I mean, we've been talking now for close to 10 years, 8 years about the runoff. We've been in private meetings. We've had the Hoover River Society here. We're working with the mayor. Mayor's done studies. Ever since the development started up there by the Grove and all down through the side of 150 when the state actually widened the road, the turbidity, the runoff, the build up into the lakes. I'm president of Chestnut Ridge Owners Association, and I serve on the President's Council for Trace Crossings Residential Association. We have spent like close to $200,000 to dredge the lake over and over again. If you go to Dr. Franco's backyard right now, we have just a huge silt island that is built up right behind his house. And we've looked at ways to do it, and a little over a year ago, or about that time, I got a call from Alan Rice. He said, I need to talk to you and Dr. Franco. He said, for a change, we've got a promising opportunity here. Well, I didn't know anything about Celebration Village, and he wasn't about to divulge the name at that point. So we went into second or third level discussions that related to it, and then we started off and we had meetings again with Mr. Gonzalez. We went over the detailed plans. We met over at Dr. Franco's office. We looked at it. And I tell you what, I was convinced after you look at all the nuts and the bolts and the impact of the watershed and what we've been working on now for nearly 10 years, finally we've got a developer that cares enough to really take ownership of the property there and not only take care of their development, but also to pick up the slack that was left over from going back to the UAB development, the Shops of Hoover, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you all have been great to work with us. You've given us your time. We've had special meetings. We've sat down and talked in private, and everyone's tried to come up with solutions this, that, and the other. And this one has just fallen into being really something special for the city of Hoover. And I will say this, knowing the demographics of the area, Celebration Village is a beautiful development, a first-class development that I think a lot of people will enjoy. It's going to be situated down below the Duluth Trading, down on the half of the Chichester property. And I think that with the engineering that I've seen, that we're in a position here to speak positively and not having to speak negatively about a development. I'll be the first one to tell you positive, but I'll be the first one to tell you where a problem is. And so will Beth from the Cobble River Society. We've been into a lot of it over the years. But I appreciate your time. I think this is a worthwhile development. I think it's great for the city. I think it's great for everyone involved. It's not going to create more traffic out on Stadium Trace and especially Brock's Gap. And it's going to be really something special. And I just want to thank the mayor. I want to thank all the council, all the staff that's worked with us, and Alan Rice. And I thank the developers for taking the time to engage the community where we can communicate with our residents and have the feedback necessary that you can do your jobs. And for that, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Well, I only hope I can live up to what these folks think I can do. But let me get into the drainage on this thing, and then I'll mention a couple things after drainage. I think the big issue here in front of us, in front of the people, and what I was made aware of through Alan Rice, the mayor, through the residents when I did Stadium Trace Village, and Dr. DeFranco and whatnot, was the drainage. And this particular project, it was able to achieve the things it did because the developer also listened to me when I said I needed to lose a house. He let me lose a house. When I asked him to rearrange something, he let me rearrange something. And so what the development is characteristic of it is what the land gives us, okay? We got 3 distinct pods of development out here. We got the entrance road separate from that and the things that go along the entrance road, but then you see the bungalows, the cottages in the village. And what you see surrounding each one of those are streams, okay? And we have a high obligation to protect those streams, nowadays, and any development that was going to be successful here needed to protect those streams, and we were able to do that with this developer, is protect those streams. So we have several different opportunities. My pointer doesn't work on any one of these screens, so I'm going to try the best I can to point out, but we have several different opportunities to effectively manage stormwater on this development, okay? First off is the big green spaces that you see surrounding every one of those streams. We are doing our doggonedest best to not touch the streams and to keep them natural and to keep the natural areas around those streams. So we end up with these large expansive areas that are undeveloped, and you can see those in the darker green around those things, okay? We cross those streams in 1, 2, 3, 4 different locations, okay? Those 4 different locations will become, back up one, please. Will become important in a second, but we do cross them in 4 different locations, which is going to give us some opportunity to break down this large basin into manageable basins and do some significant work with regards to stormwater runoff. The first slide here that you're seeing right now shows our water quality ponds. These are what we developed to meet the stormwater requirements for the MS4 discharges that we're seeing on the city now. These will be that 1.1 inches of runoff that we'll take, and we will filter the pollutants in these. They're not really planning, we're not really planning to do anything but to take care of that first flush and to knock that pollutant load off before it can get down to Scout Lake. Our next areas, I can do that. There, you're beginning to see now what our next areas are. The 3 outliers before we get down to the one on the lower south end of this thing. We will work in those individual basins to further restrict flows in those areas there, to create a reduction in flow in those areas and to become forebays to the Scout Lake development. And we will manage those off-site flows and restrict those upflows down to their pre-developed flows in those 3 basins there. My final basin that I get will include trash racks and other types of devices to keep any floatables from leaving the site. We'll again restrict the flows that we got off of those 3 outlying bases to reduce the flow. My goal is to reduce the flows to a flow that the channel bed that we see out there can manage today. So it will be less than the pre-developed flows when we let that go. So what we do is we restrict, and then we finally polish that water off in that big lower southern basin there. So with that, I think we can reduce the flows down to an acceptable level of discharge into the lake. We can act as the 4 bays that are in our development as opposed to Scout Lake. And because we're in a situation where we have continued management, we will write the stormwater management program as a part of the landscape management to keep those areas where they're cleaned and maintained and can continue to function for a long period of time. All the utilities are available to us. Water, sewer, power, telephone, gas is all available up to the end of Perduto. We stubbed that out when we did Stadium Trace Village. We will be situating a county lift station. We're in discussions with the county on that lift station at the cul-de-sac at the end of the thing, at the end of the project for sewer. But we have sufficient water, power, telephone, gas, everything to service the thing. We are proposing a dead end of Perdido Way right now, but we will extend the right-of-way to the end of the property so that in the future, if there was any reasons to extend that road, it could be extended. But we are proposing a dead end. So with that, I'm going to give the presentation over to Robin Gregory. He'll talk about buffers and things of that nature.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, if you can back up to the tree conservation plan. This is a color-coded map. You can see the darker green is existing trees to remain. The next lighter color, you can see those are the areas there that are the buffer area. And then if you go to the next lighter color, those are the street trees and the interior trees. You can go to the next one, please. Yeah, this is the site amenities. You can see right in the middle, that's where we're going to have our entrance and gateway and landscaping. And then on the right-hand side, you can look and see that there's a clubhouse, pool, pickleball, bocce courts, detention areas, and then a grilling area on the right-hand side. And then if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see we have a nice community gardens, putting green, along with meadow, hiking, walking areas, and sidewalks that interconnect all the different areas. Also want to note that we have a kind of elevation, a front and rear elevation of the clubhouse, so you can see what that nice looking building looks like. And now I'll turn it over to Aubrey for the next section.
Good evening. My name is Aubrey Long. I'm with Skipper Consulting. We're a traffic firm out of Birmingham. We were asked to take a look at this project and conduct a traffic study. So we looked at existing conditions. We met with the city engineering staff at the beginning of this project to determine a scope of work and define the study area. We focused our study area mainly on the accesses at 150 and Stadium Trace. That's where this traffic would dump to. So we looked at existing conditions, looked at this development, determined what traffic would be produced by the development, put that together with the existing volumes to look at future conditions and see what impacts this would have to traffic and what improvements would need to be made, if any. After doing that analysis, we determined that there was really no major impacts with this development. Really, two reasons. One, this development is really what we would call just a low generator of traffic. The traffic patterns are different than your normal patterns. You're not going to have as many people going and leaving, going to work in the morning and coming home in the afternoon, the rush hour traffic. The traffic is more spread out through the day there, and just a low generator in total. But then two, also, there's been a lot of development along 150 over the past several years. And as part of the Stadium Trace Village project, there was a lot of improvements that have already been done to 150 and Stadium Trace. And so those were kind of done with the ability to have some more capacity for developments like this. So in combination with all of those points there, we did not recommend any additional improvements that needed to be made for this development.
Before we take any questions, if there are, Ms. Dickerson, would you please put up that clip? It's a fly-through of our existing facility. It's short. It is not what I sent you on Friday, which is the Celebrate Life, but it's a different one of our existing facility. That facility was 3 years old this past November. We call that Celebration 1.0. By the time that we do come to Hoover, we will have Celebration 2.0, a little larger, and things that we have. Celebration 1.0. By the time that we do come to Hoover. Somebody recording me? Celebration 2.0, a little larger.
That was cool.
I'm done.
Any questions for Mr. Very or any of his colleagues that are here from the council?
Yes, Mr. President, if I may.
Yes, sir. Councilman Middlebrook.
Ahmad, it was nice speaking with you on Friday. I appreciate the opportunity. I realize that this may not be in the business plan of this particular development. I want to commend you on bringing such a quality development to Hoover. But a need really throughout the country is for older parents of adult special needs children also. Is there any opportunity for those older parents who also care for adult special needs children to live in a facility like this?
Councilman, after I spoke to you on Friday, I talked to my partner, Paul Ozzie, and he is aware of that need. Today, we do not have it included in our operation. I will promise you that Paul will look into it. I cannot promise you it would be included. We're going to close on this transaction after we get through our permitting, so we probably won't close until the end of the year, if not the first quarter of 2022. So we have a little bit of time to look at it, but it is not part of what we offer today.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Slide, I was just going to kind of wrap up this was looked on very favorably in planning and zoning for several reasons. First and foremost, I think we voted on several facilities like this, and the more we get through, the more closer we are to one of us being able to live in one of these really nice places. And I kid about that, but those of us who've had loved ones who in their later years have needed facilities, and how hard it's been to find things, and that transition that happens so quickly, and having options like this. I know it's a business and you're making money, but I think it's a service to people who've worked their whole lives and deserve a, kind of their later years to have these kind of amenities. The second thing is I actually found out about this from Dr. DeFranco, which is a testament to the work you did working in the community. I think Mr. Gonzalez could run for Congress out there in Trace Crossings right now, just as long as you don't run for council. But that's just a testament to how involved you were in the community working on that. So I think that's to be commended. And the last thing is I don't know, anytime I look at the map or we scroll over this part of the map, it's right in the middle of Trace Crossings, and we wonder what's going to be there because it's a huge chunk of land. It's agriculture. We know it's not going to be a farm, so it's going to be something. So what is the best and highest use for this chunk of land that is not a strain on services out there with traffic, with regard to traffic? And I can't think of a better one. I think this is a great option, and so I'm to echo Dr. Middlebrooks, and I'm glad you're bringing it to Hoover. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Berry, I'll share something you shared with me before the meeting, that were it not for Stadium Trace Village, you would not even be looking at this project. Were it not for the Hoover Met Complex, Stadium Trace Village wouldn't be there. So smart growth begets smart growth, and this is smart growth.
We are down in the meadow. I've never been that low with a development in my life. The gentleman that my partners say this will work because we'll build a village there, but we are there because of Stadium Trace. Our residents, although we have everything self-contained, in our other developments, we are connected to retail. When someone wants to go to Target, if someone wants to go to Starbucks, if someone has a dental appointment, we take them there. So we need to be in the throes of all those type businesses. Those restaurants and the other things that we'll have planned coming in will only be an asset to us and will help us bring in people.
Very good. We'll have an opportunity to visit again on March 15th. Look forward to having you back. And I would ask, is there anyone from the audience that would like to ask a question tonight? And certainly you have 2 weeks between now and then to think about those, and we'll have an opportunity also on that Monday night to ask questions. But are there any tonight before we move on?
If I could say one more thing, Mr.
Sure,
President. Dr. DeFranco, your engagement in this process has been very important. And, a lot of people send us emails or comment on social media, whatever, but you've gone above and beyond to engage the government to work for the best. And I think you and your neighborhood are going to benefit from that. I don't think these things would not have been brought to the attention of the developer if it hadn't been for you. So appreciate that.
Council, I do want to thank Mr. Rice and Mr. Martin because they were very emphatic that before we did anything, we needed to make sure we got this addressed or it was going to be a tough road.
Very good. Thank you. We'll now move to item number 18. And again, this will be a first reading. We'll set a public hearing for March 15th. No action to be taken at this meeting. But item number 18 is ordinance 21-2509. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance provides for licensing of multi-event special events within the city of Hoover.
We had a good discussion about this Thursday night at our work session. I know Mr. Davidson's back with us tonight. Any questions that perhaps did not get asked by the members of the body that need to be asked tonight? Of course, we'll have another opportunity on the 15th. All right, seeing none, that brings us to the end of our regular agenda. Now we'll open it up to any comments or questions from the council.
Mr. President, I would just like to thank our Chamber of Commerce for catching council fever and staying all the way till the end of the meeting.
Hear, hear. I know we have Chief Durzis with us tonight. Chief, would you mind introducing us to not a new member of your staff, but someone who's in a new position that we'll be seeing a lot more of?
Appreciate that, Mr. President. past 13 years. Al, come on down. Has taken a job with the city of Hoover as a director of some special projects, I believe. So he is bolting out of the first floor to come up here to the third. And he's done a fantastic job. And I really think the reason he's got this new position is because of the type of job that he's done for the Hoover Police Department, obviously. So Lieutenant Fountain, come on down. Lieutenant Fountain today became the new executive officer. Kenny Fountain's been with the Hoover Police Department for 24 years. And want to congratulate him. And as Al knows, you'll be hearing a lot of phone calls from me. So I'm thinking stuff off at all hours tonight and call. Al's wife will be glad that he's not in this position. Kenny doesn't have a wife yet, but his fiancee's in the back. Alex, stand up, please. Alex is from Colorado and flew in today to be with us for Kenny's promotion to executive officer. So again, everything keeps rolling. I'm proud to say that I think we've developed a staff that, again, we lost 2 captains to retirements today, promoted 2 captains, and very, very glad to know that we've done a good job of mentoring our people, that when somebody leaves, we hate to see them leave, a lot of experience, but I don't think we miss a beat. We've got good people in the wings that do a good job. I want to congratulate you, Jacob, for getting that position, and I know the Hoover Police and the city, we certainly appreciate the chamber and everything that you guys do, and we do everything we can to be good stewards and protect our businesses, I'll say. So last year, I think we had a fantastic year. You saw the crime statistics in the Hoover Sun today. Mr. Anderson is back there, so appreciate the article. It was good. So again, just wanted to thank Al publicly for the type of job that he's done for me and the police department the past 13 years, and for Kenny stepping up and taking this new
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions or comments from the council? Any general comments or questions from members of the audience? Ms. Bass, if you would stick around for a picture with the council after, we would like to do that with you. And I also want to recognize Ms. Terry Shea. Terry, you have done an outstanding job as interim director of our chamber. You were the right person at the right time to fill a void, and we're deeply indebted to you for coming out of retirement to do this. So we're very thankful for what you've done for us the last several months. If there's nothing else, we're adjourned. Let's get a